The GOAT debate between LeBron and Michael Jordan took a turn when Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett chimed in. In a new interview, KG says he has a different level of respect for MJ. Garnett put Jordan on a pedestal, calling him a god, while simply viewing LeBron as, quote, the little homie. Shannon, how much does this hurt LeBron's GOAT case?
It doesn't hurt it at all. Skip, you have to understand that when Kevin Garnett was 8 years old, and when Jordan got into the league. When Kevin Garnett got into the league, Jordan was in his 12th season. And Kevin Garnett spent his last year of high school ball at where, Skip? In Chicago. So, I mean, most guys, if you're from that area, Chicago, Jordan is it. It's just like if you're in Detroit, Isaiah Thomas is it. Just like if you're in L.A., Magic Johnson was it. If you were in Boston, Larry Bird was it. No, and I get it, Skip, because you have to understand, when Kevin Garnett, when LeBron got into the league, Kevin Garnett was already in his eighth season. So he looking at, man, that's the little homie. But all of a sudden, the little homie grew up and took over the block. And look, man, Magic Johnson, Magic Johnson did not fear Michael Jordan. He did not. Was no threat. Larry Bird did not fear Michael Jordan. Was no threat. Couldn't get out. He couldn't get out of the East. He, in the 80s, when the Magic and Bird was at their apex, your guy could not get out of the East. It wasn't until Larry's back had given out on him. You know he was on his last legs. And that's what happens when you go to the finals year after year after year. Look what it did. Go ahead, Skip.
Okay, my turn. Shannon Sharp, this was yet another nail in your quote-unquote GOAT coffin, and I want to publicly thank Kevin Garnett for saying this because he just nailed it for me. And yes, he did cross over Michael in those last 3 years in Chicago, so he saw it up close and personal, but he just said, Michael Jordan, I looked at as an effing god. I thought he was my version of what basketball looked like. That's what I hear from so many ex-players who know Jordan the way I know him through covering him. And then his almost dismissive response about LeBron was he was more like little homie. Here's little homie growing up. And, man, little homie is getting better than everybody during his era, obviously. GD, says Kevin Garnett. Well, that puts it in the right perspective for me because obviously Kevin's about 8 years older than LeBron, but he got to see LeBron at his worst, too. Because
Hold on.
I'm talking. It's 2010, what happened in the Eastern Conference semifinals. That was the year in which LeBron played, I thought, his greatest game ever in Game 3 to go up 2-1. And then what happened in 4, 5, and 6? Reportedly, said a member of his inner circle, LeBron had to be sedated before those three games, 4, 5, and 6, in which he and his Cavaliers cratered. And the owner, Dan Gilbert, eventually accused LeBron of quitting in those 3 games. And Kevin Garnett got to see that up close and very personal. Yes, thank you for closing the GOAT case for the real GOAT.
No. But here's the thing. So what happened when LeBron James got a comparable team? How many series that once LeBron James got a comparable team to the one Kevin Garnett was playing on, how many times did Kevin Garnett beat LeBron in a series once he got a comparable team?
Yeah, you know what?
That's what the little homie did.
In and he just kept the discussion.
That's what the little homie did to him.
Thank you, KG.
Moving on for now, how good should the Lakers feel about themselves after their second straight OT win? That's next.
Good.
Westbrook, a letter grade for his performance, please.
Skip, I gave him a B-, and because I think the thing is he's very, very frustrating. And you have to basically what I'm starting to learn, and this is the first time that he's actually been on a team that I actually root for, is that I'm learning to accept the good with the bad, knowing that he's going to do some really good things, but he's going to make some really, really boneheaded plays. And you're just going to have to be accepting of that, Skip, because I look at him, the 2 big shots down the stretch was as big a shots that he's made since he's been in this uniform. But then I look at the jumping in the air under the basket with no one to pass the ball to, nowhere to go with the basketball, turning it over in that situation, throwing the ball off. He's standing right next to AD. He throws the ball off his head, and he turns the ball over. Taking a bad three at the end of regulation when you got Carmelo standing right there at the top of the key, and I'm definitely going to trust Carmelo in that situation more than I'm going to trust Russ. Yep. But as I said, Skip, the 25 points, the 14 assists, the 12 rebounds, that's undeniable. But he also had 8 turnovers in that situation. So maybe the game would have not even been this close had Russ done a better job of taking care of the basketball. Yep. So I gave him a B-, knowing now after watching him, I've seen enough to know. Shannon, don't get your blood pressure up. This is who Russ is. Russ is going to make some plays. You're like, wow, that was good, Russ. And Russ is going to make some plays. You're like, damn, Russ, what the hell are you thinking? And so that's where I am, Skip. I gave him a B-, but I got to take something positive. I got to get some positive out of this. So I thought he played well when he needed to play well, which was in the fourth quarter. But, man, them turnovers, Skip. And a lot of these turnovers are just, like, unnecessary because they're so casual. The guy's standing right there in front of him, and he throws the ball trying to get it to AD, and the guy just sticks his hands up and just takes it out there. I'm like, Russ, really? You're not going to fake it up and then bounce it? But that's what I gave him, Skip.
Shannon Sharp, Russell Westbrook, now your point guard of your Los Angeles Lakers, the Kings' Los Angeles Lakers, that Russ is going to take a couple of years off your life because he's going to cause you a lot of sleepless nights. He's going to cause you a lot of angst and soul-searching, gnashing of teeth. He's going to force you to come in here a number of mornings going forward this year and hang your head and say, I just don't know what to do with him, because nobody knows what to do with him, because he is simply the greatest, awfulest player any of us have ever seen. Because it is great awful. But in the end, he's a solo act of a stat machine, and it's all-time great on both counts. Solo act, stat machine. He is a cinch first-ballot Hall of Famer because he has averaged triple-doubles 4 of the last 5 years, and I'm not going to be surprised if he pulls it off again this year because he's already up to 19 points a game, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists.
Yes.
And if I just read you the numbers just off the top of my head, off this box score, you would say, man, he did that? 25, 12, and 14. But then there's another category called turnovers, and it went to 8. 8? He is running away with the NBA lead in turnovers because he's now all the way up to 64. He and James Harden have played the same, 12 games each. Russ has 64, and in second place in turnovers is James Harden with 56. He leads by 8 turnovers through 12 games.
5 a game.
That's horrendously bad. It's over 5 a game. So when I'm trying to give him a grade, if I start with floor generalship, with orchestrating, with quarterbacking, I'm like an F+. I might give him a plus because he did have the high number of assists.
Right.
But all the rest of it, and the clutch shot making, and just how hard he plays and getting that many rebounds, I would give him an A- for that part of his basketball game. And so I'm trying to average it out to a C+. He's hard to live with. He's hard to win with. He's hard to overcome. But he does so much great that in the end you sit back and say, yeah, but. It's constantly, yeah, but.
Right.
And the buts last night happened 8 times. If we could please see in order Russ's turnovers from last night, just for those who might not have stayed up late enough to digest them. Russ's what? Russ, careful. Just careful. What was that? That'd get a lot of players yanked. What was that? That's just wild, out of control Russ. Russ? What? What, Russ? Come on. You're better than that. You're way better than that.
But again, leaving his feet.
Leave your feet up in the air without a plan.
That's the one he hit AD side the head with.
Right in the head. God. What are you doing, Russ? Russ, this is overtime. That's the other overtime turnover.
Yeah, because he had 2.
And that was the worst one of all, and it was the last one, and it kept Miami afloat in overtime and gave me pause because I thought the Heat are going to steal this game because Westbrook has gone Westbrook with his passing. He is now the president of the Bricklayers Union here in Los Angeles, and it also trickles into turnovers because he has brick turnovers. I don't know what possesses him.
Yeah, he might be the greatest brick mason of all time.
He is the greatest of all time.